There are few things more loathsome than Project Veritas and its attempts to sting journalists in an effort to delegitimize the reality-based media.
But in its latest video, Project Veritas has done us all a favor.
The group's sneaky surveillance has uncovered someone speaking profound truths about how commercial pressures have skewed corporate media's political news values, not toward making things up, but toward turning it all into shallow, value-neutral entertainment.
The truth teller was David Wright, an Emmy Award-winning ABC News correspondent who's been with the network since 2000. And unfortunately for him, and the truth, when his bosses at ABC saw the video, they suspended him and reassigned him away from political coverage.
An anonymous statement from ABC News explained, "Any action that damages our reputation for fairness and impartiality or gives the appearance of compromising it harms ABC News and the individuals involved."
It's the latest example of a major media organization getting played by the right, overreacting out of panic to critiques from people who do not have journalism's best interests at heart.
Wright's comments did include a few ill-chosen words about Trump. In a version of the video tweeted by Donald Trump Jr., Wright calls Trump a dick and likens him to the nightmare spouse you can't win an argument with.
But the vast majority of the comments on both videos involved Wright delivering a sophisticated and spot-on critique of his industry and his bosses.
It's not hard to imagine that's what ticked off ABC management the most.
The video on YouTube is choppy, and its makers have a history of deceptive editing, so there's no telling in what order Wright's quotes came. But here is some of what Wright said.
From the tweeted video.
Asked if he considers himself a Democrat socialist.
Maybe indiscreetly calling Trump a dick could legitimately elicit a talking to from management. But pretty much everything else Wright said was truthful, if indelicate.
As for his political views, journalists have political views. They are allowed to have political views. Wright's views are hardly radical. The only problem is if those political views create a bias in their work. And while I admit I don't know Wright's work, I notice there is no such accusation being made.
Paul Farhi, in The Washington Post, wrote that,
in the overreaction to bad faith actors, Wright's situation is reminiscent of a recent incident at The Washington Post involving reporter Felicia Sonmez, who tweeted a link to a story about rape allegations against Kobe Bryant shortly after he was killed in a helicopter crash.
After right-wing Twitter, led by Donald Trump Jr., furiously attacked Sonmez, Post managing editor Tracy Grant suspended her.
The suspension was later rescinded, as CJR's Hamilton Nolan wrote.
Wright's suspension is already sparking a similarly bitter discourse, with many journalists jumping to his defense. Among them,
Los Angeles Times reporter Matt Pierce,
New York Times reporter Sapan Deb,
Washington Post reporter Hamza Shaban,
Washington Post columnist Radley Balco,
New York Times TV critic James Poniwozik,
Media Matters writer Parker Malloy.
I agree with them all.
Wright said, out loud and, to his chagrin, on a hidden microphone, what so many other journalists feel and tell each other every day. We should listen. We should talk about it. And ABC should let him get back to his job.